Let me bring back in Misty Marris, our legal analyst. How do you read this from the Department of Justice, Misty, based on what Kelly just laid out?
I agree with Kelly, and I actually think it's getting ahead of a specific argument that the Department of Justice is forecasting the defense will make. Some of those threshold arguments we were talking about before, Hallie, to challenge this indictment, challenge the way this arrest happened. Part of that is going to be whether or not this is a prosecution, as Pam Bondi has said in this tweet, for a large-scale drug trafficking operation. Basically, there's an indictment that they're bringing the Maduro and his wife to justice to prosecute them for their private criminal acts versus some kind of pretext to actually enact a regime change. And I think some of what President Trump has been saying publicly will be what the Maduro's attorney, when they do have an attorney, will raise as far as the legality of whether or not they should enjoy immunity based on the head of state status. So this is attacking, to me, a very specific legal argument that now Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice is laying out to refocus this on the fact that this is a criminal prosecution for acts that have impacted the United States.
The other piece of this, too, and I wonder the interplay of this. When you looked at there were questions around, even before this extraction, this strike on Venezuela to remove Maduro, there had been questions around the legality of those boat strikes in the Caribbean, as you well know, Misty. And just to remind people, these are the strikes that have been going on for months now that have killed more than 100 alleged narco-terrorists. The administration says more than 100 people. These strikes, they released a video of them. We see it, sort of that night vision looking video, and questions about whether that was legal. The Justice Department, apparently, according to some Washington Post reporting, had suggested that there was legality to that because of a long-standing, or because of an Office of Legal Counsel, OLC, basically, memo that laid this out. Help us understand the interplay between the Justice Department, Congress, the courts here in this situation, and how that works together.
Absolutely. So there's basically, when you're talking about an act of war, that requires congressional approval and would fall outside the president's executive Article 2 powers. So the argument is that to bomb these boats or to go in and facilitate a regime change would require congressional approval. There's a 1989 memo, Department of Justice, as you just said, actually written by Bill Barr, which says that the United States has inherent constitutional authority to order the FBI to take people into custody in a foreign nation, even if it would violate international law. And federal courts have held that that the manner in which a defendant is brought before a U.S. court can still mean that there is jurisdiction, even if it's outside of U.S. soil, and even if it is by force. So all of this interplays together into arguments that I would expect to see about whether or not congressional approval was needed under this circumstance, or does it fall under the president's Article 2 powers relating to issues of foreign intelligence or relating to other diplomatic type issues. So that is the push-pull that we're going to see. And it's a familiar argument, this tension between what is congressional versus what falls under the president's domain.
Misty Marris, we're glad to have you with us today, breaking all this down. Appreciate that. I want to bring in